Good evening, everyone. We are continuing on our study in the book of Nahum, and we are continuing from chapter 1, verse 15. Now, this is the beginning of a new section. Unfortunately, our Bibles have cut it off at the wrong segment, but nevertheless, this is where we start in verse 15 on to chapter 2. It says, "Behold on the mountains the feet of him who brings good tidings, who proclaims peace. O Judah, keep your appointed feasts, perform your vows, for the wicked one shall no more pass through you. He is utterly cut off." Now, this is an entire narrative of the next segment, because in the previous segment, God's message is clearly that, number one, Sennacherib is going to be the wicked planner, giving wicked advice, bad advice, and they will be demolished. And God is challenging the gods of the Assyrians, that God is the true and living God. And at the end of that narrative in verse 14, we come to verse 15, and it says, "Hine, look." Right? Behold means look. Look where? Look on the mountains. Well, the mountains here would be the mountains of Israel. Now, the mountains of Israel will start from Mount Hermon in the north and comes all the way south towards the Dead Sea. And so there are a number of peaks that comes all the way down, and it protects Israel. And so it says, "Behold on the mountains." And it says, "the feet of him who brings good tidings." This is a picture of someone walking, right? Someone walking. And this person who is walking from the mountains, and it says, "who bring good news." And I guess here you would say, how should we say this? Who makes an announcement, I guess, right? Who announces how do you say, announces, well, good tidings, good news. Yeah, I guess that would be okay. It announces good news. And so he comes to announce good news from the mountains, and he is, well, it says here, proclaims peace. And the idea of proclaim here is to cause to hear, right? To cause to hear. And this word peace is shalom. And you'll find that this would be an A and a B. All right. And basically, you could see that brings good news is somebody who causes them to hear what is peace. Things are completed. There's nothing more to worry about. And that is good news. And basically, this is what it means, that the news of the Assyrians leaving is good news. And so this is what is going to happen, is that as a prophecy, it talks about how the Assyrians will come, surround them, oppress them, put them in a tight spot, and yet God is going to deal with them. And when that happens, when it's all over, this is the good news. The Assyrians are leaving. And hence God gives them a reminder. He says, "Oh, Judah." And he says, keep your appointed feasts. Uh, and you find that the idea here is the word keep is basically to 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 do the feasts, right? Do the feasts. That would be what it means in terms of keep, right? To do, to celebrate your festivals. And the idea here is the feasts are all festivals. Now, in this month of Tishrei, you find that there are at least 3 feasts this month. And so God wants them to keep their appointments, that God has appointed them. And because God has delivered them, shouldn't they at least turn around and celebrate according to what God has told them to? So in the month of Tishrei, it's Rosh Hashanah, that is Yom Teruah. And then, I guess yesterday there was Yom Kippur. And next week, you find Sukkot coming along. And so that is what God is trying to tell them. When the good news comes, you know that you can sit back and there is peace, and that's good news. And you should complete your vows. The word perform here is not just to do, right? It is to complete or to make good. Make good. You see, in the Hebrew sense, God wants them to make sure that if you make a vow in God's name, you have to do it. And so when the Assyrians are leaving, that would be a good time to complete everything that you promised God. And then he says, for the wicked one, and I guess the word here, the wicked one would be the worthless guy, right? Worthless guy. I think that would be a good way of describing it. And that would be Sennacherib, the king. It says that he will no more pass through you. And that means that in the future, in 2 Kings chapter 19, he was going to come down from the north. He surrounds and took all over Judah. And then he surrounds Jerusalem. Well, God says the good news is he's leaving. He is not coming back. And it says he is utterly cut off. The word utterly here means totally, right? Totally. And the word cut off here really means karat, right? Karat. Karat means put to an end. And whatever he was trying to plan against God, trying to capture Jerusalem, and you know Jerusalem is God's city. And to attack Jerusalem is symbolic of attacking God. And at that point in time, in 2 Kings chapter 19, you find Isaiah there, you find Hezekiah there, and in one night, the angel of the Lord destroyed the entire army of the Assyrians, and Sennacherib went home. And so this would be the good news. That would be the good news. And coming into chapter 2, it continues. He who scatters has come up before your face. Man the fort, watch the road, strengthen your flanks, fortify your power mightily. Now, all of these are talking about what is going to happen when Sennacherib is coming. Now, Sennacherib is the king that actually comes to attack them. And I guess that would be important. And understand this is under the time of Sennacherib. And that's the Assyrian. It is also at the time of Hezekiah. and that's the king of Judah. The prophet is Isaiah. He's the prophet of that time. And so 2 Kings 19 is a very important chapter with regards to chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the book of Nahum. And so it talks about Sennacherib coming in, and he is, well, if you read in 2 Kings chapter 19, he puts a siege around Jerusalem. And verse 2 says this, "For the Lord will restore the excellence of Jacob like the excellence of Israel, for the emptiers have emptied them out, ruined their vine branches." Now again, these are all, I guess it's a very poetic expression. Number one, this is an A and a B, and this is an A and a B. And basically, it's trying to say that God will restore. And that would be Judah. And this one here means the Assyrians will leave empty-handed. And that would be a prophecy, right? That's a prophecy that they would have no means of gaining anything in Judah by the time God is finished with them. Verse 3, "The shields of his mighty men are made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots come with flaming torches in the day of his preparations, and the spears are brandished." This one tells us that they are coming in full strength. Right? These are the Assyrians. They are coming in full strength. "The chariots rage in the streets. They jostle one another in the broad roads. They seem like torches. They run like lightning." Again, this is continuation of the picture of the Assyrians. Now, the Assyrians, when they came down to the northern kingdom and then encircle all the cities in Judah, and then finally at Jerusalem. In verse 5, he remembers, the king of Assyria remembers all his princes, his generals, and they stumble in their walk. They make haste to her walls. A defense is prepared. And it seems that when the time comes, this is now looking at the future. I would say that this is now looking at after Judah. After the episode of Judah, they will face Babylon. Right? And Babylon will attack them. The gates of the rivers are open. The palace is dissolved. And so you find that Assyria, right? Assyria is attacked. And then in verse 7 says this, "It is decreed." It is decreed, "She shall be led away captive. She shall be brought up. Her maidservant shall lead her with the voice of doves, beating their breasts." All of these are what we call a very imagery-driven description of how the Assyrians will surrender themselves. So let's take a look at some of these words. It is decreed. It is determined. Right? It's determined. It is fixed. And who fixed it? God. and she shall be led away captive. Who is she? Assyria or Nineveh. Nineveh shall be left away as captive. And so the idea here is, well, captive would be, well, I guess captive is good, right? They are uncovered, means that they are captured. And then she shall be brought up, made to ascend. And then her maidservants shall lead her with the voice of doves. And this lead her, I think lead her is really not a good word in this case. I think lament is better, right? Her maidservants will lament as the sound of doves, right? Doves or pigeons. Beating upon their, well, I guess beating their hearts is the word. And so this would be beating on their chests. Right? And that's the picture. They will beat upon their chests. And basically all of this is a hue and cry of being captured by their enemies. That's the picture here. Verse 8. Though Nineveh of old was like a pool of water, now they flee away. Halt, halt, they cry, but no one turns back. This is another interesting translation, and we need to work on this a little bit. And Nineveh of old was from the day, right? From the day. This is what it means, from the day. And yes, in the English, of old is quite okay. And it says they are a pool of water. Pool means reservoir. A reservoir of water in the day. And so they were rich. They had fresh water and they were alive. That's a picture. And now they flee away. They try to escape. And so the water is no longer trapped in itself like a reservoir. The water is flowing away. That's what it means. Now the word halt. Halt is to stand, right? Not halt as in the English halt, but it does give a picture. Stand means don't run away. But they are all running away, trying to escape, right? Running away, trying to escape. And so you find that all of this is running off, and it says, stand, stand, stand still. But nobody turns back. Now, the word turns back literally means show signs of turning. And the phrase is, well, when you call out, nobody is interested to listen to the cry to come back. And it means that it has come to a point in time when Nineveh, such a great city, has given up hope and everyone is running away. So it says, take spoil. Take spoil here is to plunder. Silver, take spoil of gold. And that means that they have lost. Nineveh have lost to the enemy. There is no end of treasure, wealth of every desirable prize. And so you find that the idea here is there is so much left as spoils. Verse 10. Verse 10 now talks about she is empty, right? Empty. Empty appears to be there will be no inhabitants. And then it says it is desolate. And it also comes from the same word, right? The same word, empty of contents. Both of them, right? Of the same basic word. And waste. Now the word waste, waste actually means devastation. It also carries a meaning as things that has totally flowed away. There's nothing left. Basically, there's nothing left that is useful, right? Nothing useful left. Next phrase. The next phrase is, the heart melts, the knees shake. Much pain in every side, and all their faces are drained of color. Now, let's break this down. The heart melts and the knees shake. And so this is an A and this is a B. Two body parts. And this is talking about the being terrified, right? Being very afraid. And imagine Nineveh being very afraid. And then much pain is in every side. Now, the idea of pain here, it gives us the picture. The pain of the picture is like childbirth. It is that painful. And then it says in every side. And the word side here is, well, you can actually translate this as in hips. In both sides of the hips. I think that would be a way to look at it. It says both sides of the hips. And this word is in the dual, so it's both sides of the hips. And all their faces are drained of color. Now, the translation here is a bit off, so let me just explain this to you. All their faces, and the idea here is, I think you can say, they take away, drained, right? Take away the glow of the face. I think the glow or the flush of the face, which means that when you are healthy, you're happy, you have a glow in your face, and you've got this blush. And basically, you find that this is another emphasis on the state that pictures them to be very afraid. Right? Be very afraid. Now comes a few verses of very poetic words. Very poetic words. He says, where is the dwelling of the lions and the feeding place of the young lions? Where the lion walked, the lioness the lion's cup, and no one made afraid. Where is this means this is a set of rhetorical, I guess, mocking the Assyrians. They are called lions. They are ferocious. In fact, the Assyrians are known to be really barbaric. And so they are described here as lion, Ariel, right? Ari, right? Ari is a lion. Ari is a lion. And so this is a picture that the Syrians are seen as that kind of I guess, ferociousness. We could say that ferociousness. And they went around bullying everyone and king of the jungle. And now God is saying, so where are you now? With this prophecy, who is afraid of you? The lion tore in pieces enough for his cubs, killed for his lioness, filled his caves with prey, his dens with flesh. Verse 12. And so this is, I guess, important for us to realize that there is nothing, I guess, there is also a continuation of the mocking, is where is this lion now? Right? Which is Assyria. And verse 13 is the conclusion of chapter 2. And so let us pay attention to this last verse. It says, behold, hine is to look. It's telling also Judah. It's also telling particularly the Nineveh or the Assyrians. And really telling them, look, who am I? I am Jehovah. You can worship all your gods, but I'm here to destroy you all. I am against you. So it is a picture that God is standing against them. Now it says the Lord of hosts, and this is an important word. The word is Nahum, and this is a declaration. This is much of a declaration, that it is a divine declaration. Maybe we can use this word, divine declaration of Jehovah Tzevaot. And every time we see Jehovah Tzevaot, it's about his armies. And it will talk about war or service, depending on the context. And so in this case, of course, it's war. In Malachi, it's about service to God. And so God says, I will burn your chariots in smoke. And the idea of burn is to cause to consume, right? Cause to consume. So when God consumes a sacrifice, he sends fire from heaven and eat up the sacrifice. And this is the picture he's saying. I will consume, I will burn up all your chariots, and they will be up in smoke. Right? This is literally smoke, up in smoke. Zoom. And they will all be destroyed. And then it says, and the sword shall devour your young lions. And so he's talking about the sword, and this would be the enemy's sword. And eventually we'll learn of this as the Babylonians, right? As the Babylonians, the enemies. And it says, shall devour, basically to eat up your young lions, meaning your brave soldiers. I will cut off your prey from the earth. And the idea of cut off is karat, put an end to it, and your prey. The idea of your prey here means your food from the land. And the word earth here is the land. And the voice of your messengers shall be heard no more. The voice of your messengers, and by messengers, these will be their representatives. Their representatives, people who represent Assyria. And I think we can now safely come to this conclusion. That God says, I am towards you. And so if God is against you, how can you stand? And that would be the picture that is going to be painted here. That it is a warning to the Assyrians when Jehovah, God, is standing against you. There is nothing you can do about it except to turn around to ask God to forgive. But that's not how the history has shown. Eventually, the prophecy has shown that after chapter 1, where Sennacherib has left, then when Babylon came, they were completely wiped out. And that is what verse 13 is saying. God is allowing that to happen. And this is a divine declaration. It's many years down the road. Many years down the road. At the time of Nabopolassar, which is Nebuchadnezzar's father, fighting the Assyrians in Carchemish. And this is a big war. And finally, the Assyrians didn't realize that the Babylonians had amassed such power. And then Nabopolassar died, and Nebuchadnezzar became the king, and Nebuchadnezzar became the conquering king that took over Judah as well. And so he says, I am against you, and God's going to use Babylon, and I will burn, I will consume your chariots in smoke, zap, and everything is gone. That's the picture, by the way. It's not that God sent fire from heaven. The sword, your enemies will come and eat up your young lions. They will come and defeat you. God says, I will karat everything you want to eat from the land, which means that you will die of starvation and you'll be gone. The voice of your messengers means all those who represent you, that you've sent them out, they will have no more voice. And I guess you could say that Assyria will be no more and will be no longer remembered or no longer heard in this case. There will be no name left. And so today, when we look at the Assyrians, where do you find them? In the library books, along with the Philistines, with the Moabites, with the Amorites, the Girgashites, and all those, right? And they will be relegated. Although they were a mighty, mighty power, they will be no longer remembered. And that's what verse 13 is all about. And so with this, we come to the end of chapter 2.